Okay, here's some of the stuff that I've got saved. I'm just trying to show John, that I've got this stuff saved. Sweaty Tagnants is a Facebook page that was made by Braden's aunt. Uh, Her name is Cindy. Hold on, let me move this over. Where they used to make fun of Nicole's cerebral palsy, and I would ignore it, right? And you notice, and here, right here, and here's where they take pictures of me and make these kind of profiles like this. Do me a solid and ask your common law wife if she'll lend a helping hand. Make sure it's a strong one. Blah blah blah. This is the family members. And I would save these, but I would ignore them. Right, and then here's pictures where they. Let me bring this up a little bit better. These are the BryanSt.John page that was used by. It was actually run by Trisha, not Trish, and this is something she admits to. She's already admitted to it, but then she tried to take it back. But this is some of this. Now look, okay. See right here where it shows. It shows that same profile picture that John brought up, where it says "I'll never be a big boy." Right? It's the same profile picture, same name, but that's not me, right? That's not me. It's under this BryanSt.John, which also has a picture of me. This is where I put up a picture of my kid. I put up pictures of my kids when they were little because Jaddy got a hold of the scissors and cut her hair. Right? So they took it, and notice it's connected. Notice that it's all connected right here. Right? So they took it by name and with their profile that they had. And they put Daddy cuts my hair with a knife. I do dishes while Daddy does internet attacks. Do you think that I posted that? And then they're down there as supposed to be me saying that one is hilarious. But there's one of them right there. Now if you go back to the thing where John says that I posted "I'll never be a big boy" and put Braden's picture under it, it came from this profile. That's not mine. Now, is this me harassing the family? No, that was their page that I had it taken down many times, and they would put up another one. Do you think I would post something like this about my own kids? See, and this is where I would ignore them, and that's a picture of me with like some kind of winter hat on, and this is one of their fake profiles, another one of their fake profiles that they would use. Do me a solid and ask your common law wife if she'll lend me a helping hand, knowing that she's got it. They used to call it her strong hand because one of her hands she can't use so well because she has cerebral palsy. But this is them harassing me. This is Daryl Braden's father. This is some of the paperwork that came in that I got a hold of, where it says defendant further stated his girlfriend has kept him from killing a couple of people by keeping him from leaving his home. His girlfriend at the time was Braden's mother with his gun. The defendant stated that the stuff he was doing was fun. The streets is my high. Doing crimes was my high. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Let's talk about parenting, John. This is part of the paperwork from the court case where Daryl, Braden's father, killed Ryan Adams. He was a guy that was in their neighborhood. He was just walking down the street minding his own business, and they pulled a fight on him. Harley is a friend of ours, which was also a friend of Daryl's. After this, Mr. Adams got up after being beat on by two people. He got up to walk away, and Daryl came up behind him and hit him in the head, the temple part of the head. And when he started to go down, he grabbed Ryan by his chest and flipped him straight over on his back. And it took him 2 months to die, but he passed away. He was a friend of ours, too. Originally Victoria and Shannon, which is Braden's grandmother and aunt, told officers that Mr. Adams did not throw a punch, but rather the defendant, which is their brother and son, attacked Mr. Adams, striking him several times in the face. Conveniently for the defense, both Victoria and Shannon testified at trial that Mr. Adams not only started the first fight, but started a second fight. And they failed to mention to law enforcement, despite numerous opportunities to do so since June 8, 2014. A credibility issue highlighted in the court's decision. They were convicted for lying. They were convicted for lying in a court case to protect their son and uncle, or their son and brother, from a murder case. So be careful about what you say about harassment. Now, this is one of the things that they got upset with me about, is because we filed this motion to prohibit prejudicial clothing or signs at trial. They were planning on, before the conviction, they were planning on standing outside the courtroom with these signs and life for Luke and justice for Braden printed on them. And when I saw that, I took it over to the lawyer, and he said, this is prejudicial. I'll file a motion to stop them from doing that. They can protest, but it shows a bias to the court when these people are already out there and they've got him convicted before all the evidence is presented. So now comes the defendant by and through the undersigned counsel, and hereby moves this order prohibiting spectators from wearing clothing that will cause prejudice to the defendant. Counsel for the defendant has been made aware through a Facebook posting, because they posted all over the St. John's of Dayton page. They posted it on the Lion St. John page, and I saw it, and I took it over to the lawyer, and we filed this motion, and the judge granted it, and they weren't allowed to do that. So that caused a lot more fighting. And what I was doing was protecting my son, who said he was innocent, and at that time I didn't have any proof that he was guilty. And if I had proof that he was guilty, I wouldn't have done this, but the court stood for them on that. So that's more reason for the family to be pissed off at me. It's one of the things they're pissed off at me about, because they know that I'm the one that had him file that, and the judge said no. They continue to say that Luke had beat him once before in 2015, right? And Luke was arrested and questioned, and so was another one of their family members. She wasn't arrested, but she was questioned. But they had to let Luke go because of it was subacute, which means that the fracture that was on his head was subacute, meaning it was already healing. Because Luke was with Braden for about 15 minutes while Kelsey left and came back. She went up to the drive-thru and then she came back. And in that time, they noticed that he was acting kind of funny and blah, blah, blah. But later on, they both stated, and I'll see if I can find it here. They both stated the reason that he got that is because he would climb up on top of his crib, and he fell out into and hit his head on the wooden floor below. So they say he did it once before, but they didn't. And here's the proof of that is the courts decide, that it was a subacute fracture when Luke was with him. That meant it was already healing. So they questioned people in the family that were with Braden days before that as well. So I have no idea why people keep saying that he did that when he didn't. This is a report that I've got on Braden's father during his trial. He was coming up for appeal, and some of the family of Ryan Adams, who he murdered, didn't know he was coming up for appeal. So I started gathering, and I contacted them in different states to let them know that he was coming up for appeal, and they weren't aware of it. They weren't notified. And in the long run, Daryl was about to get out, but the family showed up, and they made him stay. But people want to talk about parenting. They want to reach the family of Braden. They want to talk about parenting and how I raised a killer. But there's no report on my son like this because he had never had trouble before with the law. I know he did this, but he had never had, the bad parenting part isn't there. He was raised up well, and he did this on his own. Just like, when somebody goes to cut themselves as a child, they don't learn that from their parents. They do these things on their own. So if we want to discuss parenting and raising someone to do bad things, then we need to focus, if you're going to direct that at me, you need to focus on, take a look at what's written in the court documents. Daryl is likely to present a confident, self-controlled, and even defiant stance to cover up his feelings of inadequacy. This client may have come from a deprived home and had parents who were uninvolved, had a criminal record, which is both true, or provided minimal supervision. However, Daryl tends not to be critical of his family and is apt to be defensive as well as unwilling to talk about family life. When Daryl is dissatisfied with himself or other, he often resorts to passive escape or isolation. This client generally perceives that he is depressed, sad, and misunderstood. Although Daryl prefers to be alone, he feels lonesome. This client tends to be socially insecure and is somewhat guarded with persons in authority. When they were looking for Daryl, they found him hiding at Kelsey's house, which is Braden's mother. When they were looking for Daryl on the murder charge, they couldn't find him because he was hiding out. This Charlie Smith guy is the guy who came to my door and took a picture and then knocked on the door and called me outside, and when I went outside, he ran. That's the one that John says is a black guy came to my door, and I wouldn't answer it. At this point, a phone call came from the man who lived in the neighborhood of the incident. Charlie Smith led to Daryl and Mr. Farrell being identified as potential suspects. Charlie, which was one of their own family members, dropped a dime on Daryl. They put up family stuff about me. Here's the family arguing with each other. That's a brother and a sister and a mother. Braden's grandmother, aunt, and niece. Just to show that I have all the court documents, everything that was stated there, all of it. Every bit of it. I got all the statements, all the video, all of everything. This is where I walked my son out of the apartment of my son. There's another paperwork that shows that I walked up to him and I knew he was up in my son's apartment and that I would bring him down. This is part of it. I'll bring some of it. They gave me 10 minutes, and they did. They come up and knocked once or twice, and we didn't answer. It hadn't been 10 minutes yet. I brought him out. I'm not going to let him keep hiding from it. This is where, because he kind of ran off and we wasn't sure where he was. And this is his mother, Melissa. Melissa advised that a couple of hours prior to the police showing up at Zach's, Luke showed up. So she's cooperating. We're all cooperating with him. She advised that it was Zach, Janie, herself, and Chance. Zach called his dad to come over to the apartment. They called me and told me that he was there because they knew that I would do the right thing. She advised that Luke's dad, Brian, walked Luke out to the police officers. She advised that Luke told her he didn't hurt Braden and that he didn't know what happened. She advised that family members have been researching and reading and that they think the injury had to do with an infection from 2015 because he had bacterial meningitis. I brought him out. That's why my son called me. He called me and he said, "Look, Dad, Luke is up here and I don't know what to do." The police were driving around the neighborhood looking for him, and he's like, "I don't know what to do. I can't get him to leave. I just don't know what to do." So that's when I walked up to the police that were kind of sitting there. They figured he was up there. They wasn't sure. They didn't have a warrant out for him. So I walked up to the police and I was like, look, I know he's up there because they had just told me he was up there. I said, if you give me a couple minutes, I'll go up there and get him. And this cop started right off the bat, well, you're harboring a fugitive, blah, 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 blah. We're going to take your kids and everything. So I said, you know what? This is why the public doesn't help the police. I said, you can sit out here and wait for a warrant, or I can go up there and get him. I'm coming to help you get him. And then the cop calmed down. And I started to walk away. The cop goes, Mr. St. John, I'm sorry, sir, blah, blah, blah. And I turned around and said, well, you know what? Warrants do wonders. Because I came to end it. They would have had to wait until probably 8 o'clock in the morning and just sit out there and wait on this guy that they want to talk to about a child being injured when there's other things that they could be doing. So I told him, I said, give me a couple minutes. I'll go up there and I will come down with him. And I went upstairs and Luke was up there and I told him, I said, look, you have to face this music. I said, these cops they know you're up here. You have to face this music. I gave him a cigarette and I lit it up for him and I said, you're going to smoke that cigarette and you're either going to walk out there on your own or I'm going to let him in here to get you. Because he didn't have a warrant out for him at the time. And then I walked him down there. So I turned my own son in. I'm not going to let him hide forever from this shit. Here's where they found me on Twitter and started leaving comments, They even went to joking about my dog, my corgi that we had as a service dog, blah, blah, blah. And this is my response to them. We have nothing to joke about, and let's crack on a dog.